Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
The huge battle in Kentucky continues. Today is the break point. We'll know more tonight, hopefully. Colorado governor in the news. Tina Peters in the news. Federal judge in the news. ICE agents in the news, federal marshals in the news, Sheriff Mack is in the news and with us as well. Sheriff Richard Mack, founder and president of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, CSPOA.org, urging cooperation between sheriffs and their local constituents, defending God, family, and country, using the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, as their blueprint for safety and liberty. Sheriff Mack has written a new book. It's out today. Murderofamerica.com is the website. The Democrat Murder of America. Yeah. Demagoguery in the First Degree is the name of the book. Daniel Perkins, Sheriff Richard Mack wrote the book together, two accomplished authors. One of them is with me now. Welcome, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sam. It's great to be back with you this beautiful Tuesday morning.
Murderofamerica.com, the website. The Democrat Murder of America. And, you know, the real question, and I want to ask you this because I think it's fair on the day the book is released. The ebook's available now. 1492, is that a reference to Christopher Columbus?
That is. We're defending Christopher Columbus from all the ridiculous woke wanting to rewrite history fools in our country. So yeah, we wanted to bring out 1492 and how significant it was for freedom in the Americas.
Gotta love it. 1492 for that. The ebook is out. The paperback book coming soon. Now, the Democrat Murder of America, is that quite partisan or what?
Not really. We're just calling it as we see it. And the Democrat Party since its inception, has been pro-slavery, pro-violence, pro-KKK, pro-Southern Poverty Law Center,
abortion,
mob violence, and the main one, the easiest one, where they will not be able to sue us for calling their party murderers, is the issue of abortion and partial birth abortion, and even their policy that, if the baby survives 2 or 3 days after they tried to abort it, then they'll make sure it's comfortable while they kill it. And that was the governor of Virginia who actually said that. And not one single Democrat came out and said, folks, there is a line between a baby in the womb or a fetus in the womb that is not alive, and then the baby that is alive, and then we kill it. No Democrat news media came out and criticized any of that. Total support from the Democrat Party of killing babies even after they were born.
And to add insult to injury, then there was people who went undercover, asked Matt Staver and those folks over at Liberty Counsel and others who were defending them. But conservatives went undercover with Planned Parenthood and many of these other groups and proved not only were they literally murdering babies, but they were doing so in a very unique way to harvest their body parts and to sell those parts on the open market. And they got really caught doing that. And then what added insult to injury, those people who blew the whistle on that were the ones that got prosecuted, and the ones that were basically part of the baby parts selling mill, if you will. They just walked free, Sheriff.
Yeah, if that's not the Democrat way, and I'm not talking about Democratic, we're talking about Democrat Party way. That is their way. And right now they have a candidate in Maine who was part of the military in his career, and now his posts are coming forward. That Fox News has reported that he has supported violence in the past and put posts out there on Reddit and others. And they gave his new handle. Back then, he went by a different handle there. But they have proved that it was him. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to matter to most Democrats and to the Democrat
Party. And that is the quintessential point. It should matter.
Yeah, and that's what we're pointing out. And yes, Sam, like we bring up Nixon in the book and the subterfuge and the dishonesty and corruption of his administration and him personally. But you and I have said, and I've said this to you hundreds of times. It's probably the only reason why I'm really still a Republican, because the Democrats are 10 times worse than the Republicans.
Yeah, both sides are guilty, but one is just beyond the pale. The other one is, certainly from time to time you can point out examples where, hey, they're not doing right either. But in comparison, it's not even comparable. And that's really the quintessential point we're making.
Correct.
A lot of times the Republicans do stand up for what's right. Not enough. Obviously, we don't disagree. And when I bring up, are you guys making this partisan with your title? And the answer is, these parties have made it partisan. And here's why. Yeah. There's not really a Democrat that feels like they can stand up against the party. If they do, their political days are over. And that's another part of the problem, right?
Well, and that's kind of the problem with both parties. And that's why George Washington in his farewell address warned us against the party system and the two-party system. And how could we ever get rid of the two parties? It would take a national petition drive to get rid of the party system. And the party system is destroying our country.
And there's so many laws. Even if you got a national petition together, you'd run into lawfare after lawfare after lawfare. Oh, yeah. I don't even know that you could get it done then.
And we're afraid of the attacks from the Democrats because we're exposing the truth in this book. Sir. And look, Sam, we want everybody to read the book, obviously. Republican and Democrat alike. In fact, it's aimed more at Democrats. We want good people in the Democrat Party to read this and wake up and abandon your blind loyalty to this evil organization
and known as the say that isn't me. I might be Democrat by nature, but that isn't me. I'm more of the old style Democrat that wanted, honesty to some degree, comparatively speaking, or that isn't me with the murder of babies or what. We want you to stand up no matter who you are. The point is they have embraced these principles that are really anti-America. That's the point, right?
Yeah, it really is. And then the solution is that we all come together as Americans and find some common ground. And the first one that we hope that they would is what you just alluded to, is that we will stand for life. And that the Democrats will realize that this baby is growing and eating and living and feels and hears. And why would we ever believe that out of convenience or to avoid embarrassment or just for the sake of it was the wrong sex, so we'll kill it and try again later. No, there's humanity that's at stake here, and the Democrats have got to be able to see that. And there's good Democrats, some, and so do I. Sure, they've got to realize that we cannot support this anymore, and we've got to stand hand in hand. And how about for overspending? We're taking our country into bankruptcy. And we now have more debt than we have of our gross domestic product. And that's a dangerous...
And the problem is anybody who wants to reduce that debt or put us in a more fiscal responsible situation, because of parties, they can't stand for that hardly. If it's Trump, they got to be against him. Yeah. If it's so-and-so, we got to be against them. And the party becomes the stumbling block, right?
Yes. And as my co-author pointed out in the book, one of his chapters was fantastic. He actually takes statistics from medical professionals across the country. And there's no question that Democrat women especially have a much larger problem with sanity, and that they have mental disorders that are 2.5 times worse than Republican women. And so you say you really are stacking the deck in the Democrat Party with people who have emotional and mental problems. And this is all brought out in the book. And
it really comes down to sin, too. This is, we're talking about God's laws here more than even man's laws. And when people are taught just to disobey and turn their back on God and stuff, then you get into this idea where, hey, whenever you're sinning and doing things that are wrong before God, it creates instability in people, right?
That's in the book. Yeah, I think you've read that part. But, it's just, we hope that the Democrats won't be so offended that they're going to hate the book and hate us, that they just look at the truth and then realize it's time to wake up and time to change course.
We hope Republicans who are, center or whatever you want to call them, or Republicans who are in name only, et cetera, understand the same point, right?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. They're really Democrats. And so many of them switch parties just to try to hurt the Republican Party from within, just like they're all doing to our country.
All right, hang tight, everybody. We're talking about the book, The Democrat Murder of America, available at murderofamerica.com. The ebook's available now.
Sheriff Mack.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government, and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
Are you watching what's happening in our country and asking, what can I do? Join the John Birch Society in Salt Lake City, June 6th, for a powerful one-day conference. The day includes a host of respected speakers, 2 meals, and meaningful connections. You'll gain clarity on the issues and walk away with practical steps you can take to your community. Reserve your seat today at jbs.org/SLC26. That's jbs.org/SLC26.
Sheriff Mack, standing tall, still answering freedom's call, a badge of promise, a constitutional track history.
Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Sheriff Mack's book, The Democrat Murder of America. Yeah, demagoguery in the first degree. Daniel Perkins and Sheriff Mack co-authored the book. The ebook is available now. murderofamerica.com is where you can check that out. If you want to join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, that's just another click away. CSPOA.org. Become a member today. Every Wednesday, by the way, so that'll be tomorrow. They're going to have their weekly webinars. Education on the Constitution, learning about sheriffs, learning about how you can get involved and support your sheriff when they're constitutional, or help educate your sheriff if they're not, or if they want to learn, and if they're not really willing to be constitutional, finding one who will. After all, that is their responsibility. Sheriff Mack, there's a huge battle going on in the Republican Party, too, and this is why we're really against parties altogether. Trump-backed challenger to Thomas Massie, representative of Kentucky, becomes most expensive House primary in history. The primary is happening today. They say Kentucky's Republican primary between Representative Thomas Massie and Trump-endorsed challenger. Guy's name is Ed. I think you say it Gallerin or Gallerin. It's drawn more than $32 million in total spending, making it the most expensive U.S. House primary race in history. In recorded history, ladies and gentlemen, there's spending from pro-Israel groups, national Republican organizations. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I don't want to get into the middle of the fight right now about this between, Massie and others. All I want to say is this, though. $32 million. We're not even talking about a general election. This is the primary, sir.
Yeah, this is amazing. It really is. And there is a big rift between President Trump and Tom Massie. And Massie hasn't been very supportive of some of Trump's stuff. And so Trump has called in his markers politically across the country, and people are really donating to Tom Massie to support Trump. And you know that I've had a problem with Tom Massie in the past, and I've never forgiven him for not helping with Sam Girod, innocents in prison. I'm not going to be upset if he loses. I'm not.
Well, and this is the sad part about this, Sheriff. And, take whatever politician you want. I'm not picking sides. I'm just simply telling you this. When we have a humble Amish farmer in the great state of Kentucky,
Yeah.
and that farmer is literally under assault, under, in my mind, unfair, wrongful, out of line federal government bureaucrats attacking this poor gentleman.
Right.
And there's no redress of grievance for him really in any way. And then we take his side and speak out and say, hold on a minute, this is unfair. We need to, and we reach out to all of the representatives. I mean, their whole responsibility is Kentucky, right? And their responsibility is the constituents in Kentucky. And so we simply say, hey, we're not really in Kentucky or from Kentucky. We just see a wrong here that deserves attention and deserves to be right or righted or whatever term you want to use for it. Make it right. And these leaders, whatever you want to call them, politicians, whatever, they just turn a blind eye to it. What more important thing do they have to do than defending a constituent against wrongs committed against them? I mean, isn't that the whole purpose of their existence?
Exactly.
But yet we got nothing but crickets, Sheriff.
Exactly. And I actually got a lot of conversation with Rand Paul and his staff. I got none of that from Massie. I sat at a breakfast right before a rally that we were having before the rally that we were having for Sam Girod out in Kentucky. I traveled all the way out there just for this rally to support Sam Girod, an Amish farmer who was attacked by the FDA and by a stupid judge by the name of Danny C. Reeves. I believe was a Republican. I don't really care what party he was. He was corrupt and stupid in his ruling, saying that Sam Girod, there's 3 reasons he gave him 6 years in prison. 3 reasons. He was obstinate, he didn't get permission from the FDA, and he never showed remorse. None of those 3 are correct.
You shouldn't have to have permission from the FDA.
Exactly.
That's first. Number 2, whether you're obstinate or not, what if you believe that you've been wronged?
Right. So he got to prison because he was stubborn, and he showed
because he felt like he was unfairly dealt with.
Yeah, he didn't bow down and kiss the judge's ring.
The ring, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And when it comes to Thomas Massie, I really like a lot of Thomas Massie's constitutional stances on things. But at the same time, I kind of say, wait a minute now. You can't defend one of your constituents. I mean, Kim, what's her name? Kim, her name's slipping my mind right now. But she stands more for prison reform than some of these politicians. I mean, that should be their job to work on prison reform in these cases where wrong's been done. Hasn't President Trump just put together a big war chest to defend people who have been politically lawfared, Sheriff?
Yeah. In fact, I was thinking about using that because of all the crap from the Southern Poverty Law Center, but, really, you hit the nail on the head, Sam. What is government for? And if it isn't to keep innocent people out of prison, and yet Rand Paul, nothing. They gave me a lot of lip service, and you'll recall, Sam, because I was calling you constantly. I walked the halls of Congress, going office to office, door to door, for 2 days straight, over 85 senators and congressmen, so I could try to get some help for Sam Girod. And I sat down with Jason Chaffetz in his office for about a half an hour. And he was the oversight committee chair.
And what did he do for us, Sheriff?
He talked.
Yeah.
He talked with me. At least he sat down
Rand
with
Paul's
me.
office did, right?
And talk. Did nothing.
And I don't mean to attack these people because they're some of the better ones in Congress in many ways.
I'm not attacking anybody.
But at the same time, though, hey, what gives? Look, Kim Kardashian was the name I was trying to think of. Kim's done more for prison reform for many of these people than any of these representatives have. And what gives with that, Sheriff? Yeah,
exactly. And the last thing we should ever be guilty of as a government, as a senator or House of Representative, the last thing we should be guilty of is allowing an innocent man to spend 6 years in prison.
because he was mad at the judge for being wrongly treated, because he wouldn't kiss the ring, because he didn't ask the FDA if he could basically create this natural hand salve. Are you kidding me right now?
Yes. Yeah. It's astonishing that our government allows the bureaucrats to do these types of things to us.
And then it's even more shocking that people who we would believe would take up our case in a second, right? I mean, We're talking about the best of the group in many ways, Rand Paul, Ron Paul, Thomas Massie, whoever, some of these people, Jason Chaffetz, you would think these guys are conservatives. They'll carry the ball for us for sure when it matters, when the stakes are high, when the chips are down. No.
Sam, all it would have taken, if one of them had the guts to just do one little thing, make a phone call to the FDA and say, this isn't what we asked you guys to do. This isn't why we formed you.
Amen.
We don't want any of that.
Either a phone call like that, or somehow let the president know to where it could be discussed publicly, or willing to stand at a press conference and say, hey, there's something wrong here. Or, we can keep going, right?
Yeah,
there's a
exactly.
lot of little things they could have done. And the problem is,
I kept trying to set him straight on some of these things, and I asked him to apologize right before the sentencing hearing, and I was there with Chris Ann Hall and a lot of other people, and he told me he wouldn't. He says, I've done nothing wrong. I'm not going to lie to God and make a false apology. And I said, okay, it's going to cost you, but I totally understand and respect you. And so he got it, and
and in his defense, at least, he held on to his dignity instead of caving to the government, which this is what the problem that I have and why I really believe these representatives need to help. They make it political. What they do is behind the scenes isolate you and say, don't talk about this publicly or it'll go worse for you. And then behind the scenes, they just browbeat you and force you to admit to things that aren't even true. I mean, Stuart Rhodes, many other people, the J6, we really saw a lot of that kind of stuff. The same thing with Sam Girod, or same thing with Ammon Bundy or whatever. They want you to literally cave under threats of this is going to go so horrible for you. You better cave now. And that alone is abuse, and we need prison reform regarding that, even for people that we might disagree with the whole thing about, but yet they're intimidated into going along when maybe they should stand up and fight, but yet who wants to lose the rest of their life, or who wants some of their family to be in jeopardy, or anyway, it's endless of what they do to these people, right?
It is. And we have become, excuse me, Sam, we've become a bureaucratic nightmare. We have replaced the American dream with the bureaucratic nightmare from Washington, D.C. and from most states. They double down on increasing the bureaucratic control of our society. And it's really sad that it's gone.
Hang tight, Sheriff. I agree 100%. For the midterms, let's elect good, honest people that will stand with their constituents. What do you think of that? I'm Sam Bushman. Sheriff Richard Mack is with me, cspoa.org, murderofamerica.com. God save our republic.